Canada is effectively asking parents for ransom money to ensure that their kids are sitting with them. Unless you actually pay for us for a seat reservation for a specific number of seats, we cannot guarantee that your child will be seated with you. And then a parent goes, oh my God, my 2-year-old will be sitting next to a stranger. And of course, they will pay. That is how the mechanism is. And this mechanism is based on deception, is based on fraud. Because actually, Air Canada has a legal obligation to seat children with their parents. Either try to do it at the time of the check-in online. If it doesn't work then at the airport to move passengers around, at the gate, and finally on the flight itself. So we are not talking here about a situation where a child would end up not sitting next to their parents if the parents don't pay this ransom money. This is really the way I would think of it, as a ransom money.
Right.
The Air Canada is doing here fear-mongering. They are using the love and the concern of parents for the well-being of their children to extract additional money from parents who have already paid for a rather expensive ticket. Air Canada was required by the Canadian Transportation Agency to incorporate its child seating policy into its tariff, so it's now binding. And of course, parents can choose to reserve a specific seat for the family, like everybody sitting in row 8. But in order to ensure that children are seated with the parents, parents are not required to do so. It is possible that the father and one child may be seated in row 17 and the mother and another child in row 29. That is a possibility, and that is not an obligation of Air Canada to prevent that. But the obligation is to ensure that each child is seated next to a parent or an accompanying adult. As long as you don't expect Air Canada to seat you at a specific seat number, you don't have to pay in advance in order to be seated with your child. It doesn't mean that the family will be seated all together, but Air Canada has an obligation to seat children next to a parent or another accompanying adult on any flight. The order was issued on December 31st, 2014. And Air Canada incorporated those into its tariff at a later time. Air Canada is effectively asking parents for ransom money to ensure that their kids are sitting with them, even though they already have a legal obligation to do it free for charge. Of course, what Air Canada will tell you is that what these people pay for is not just being seated next to their children, but rather a specific seat. But Air Canada cannot tell parents that if you don't pay, we cannot guarantee that you will be seated with your children. They do have an obligation to take very specific steps at the check-in level, at the gate level, and on the aircraft. It is not an acceptable possibility that a child will be seated without its parents or accompanying adult.
Wow.
My reaction is that Air Canada is, as usual, lying and deceiving the public. Not the first time, and I'm afraid not the last. They have been doing it with respect to the rights of passengers who are delayed. There's currently a complaint before the Canadian Transportation Agency about that, and they are doing it now about this. The underlying problem is that they have two separate list of policies, one which gets on the website, which is public and which is they're supposed to follow, and then there is an internal one which is being applied on a daily level, like those reservation agents who are being told that no, we cannot guarantee that you are seated with your child, and those are the real policies. So we have the same way that in people who engage in tax fraud, you have two books, one the public book, one the confidential book. That's what we see here with respect to the rules. Air Canada is clearly flouting the rules. It's acting with complete disregard to the laws of Canada and to the rights of those children and their parents.